we'll just get into this. This is the Grabbing the Brisket podcast, guys. Hey, we're over at Henderson and Kane's General Store. It's like you guys are bringing the small town vibe into the big city of Houston. And that we had a conversation a little bit earlier talking about just Houston just being this just vast culture of just very diverse culinary, we'd say different styles of cooking, food. The food scene is just all, it's
amazing.
It is. And I always thought myself, it's probably the best food scene in I'm going to say United States, but maybe the world. I don't know. I have not traveled abroad, so I don't know what it is like over there. But I think Houston just kind of has it all. And very fortunate to be here with John and Veronica here at Henderson and Kane. This is a really cool joint that you got here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So So I guess obviously we've seen you guys. Y'all started in 2018.
Yeah, we've been here since 2018. Took us roughly almost a year to open up the place before that.
Okay.
But we originally started in a food hall, believe it or not. So
Nice. Yeah. So if you don't mind, kind of give us a little backstory of this area, this building, and then kind of what it what it means to be here.
Sure. The building is super important in our lives, for sure. My wife is an architect by trade, and graduating from the University of Houston, she spent all of her studies here in town, kind of studying Houston in general. And really, when we met, it was because she was to be the architect for the restaurant that I wanted to put here. A mutual friend introduced us, and the rest is history, I guess.
Nice.
But the building is really great. It's been here since 1937, serving this old neighborhood as a general store, started by the Scardino family. And a couple of families have had it since then, and it's kind of changed just like the city has changed. The culture of the ownership, the culture of the neighborhood, it's really gotten the full, work over with the amount of diversity that comes over, that's here in Houston anyway. And I think you're right. I think it's world class here. And I think it starts with how many people are willing to work hard here in Houston. A lot of other cities don't have that same, that grind work ethic that you'll find in Houston. And it's a risk, right? It's a big risk. And so people are willing to do it here. And it's probably one of the best cities that I've worked in, born and raised here. But unbiased opinion is that, again, it's just a really good place to open, serve people, hardworking people, and it's great. And so, again, 1937, it's traded hands. We've been here for 5 years now, and we really enjoy it. It feels like you're not at the edge of downtown. So while you're in the middle of everything, you can walk in here, and we get it a lot from customers that tell us that it just feels like they're somewhere else, and we like that. Everything from the music to the food to what's hanging on the walls is a part of that for us, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, what it really ties to is I feel like there's this real lack of appreciation for Houston's history that happens in this city. And to have a building like this and an opportunity to preserve it and to almost put it on a pedestal and really highlight the building in a way that hasn't really been done before. Because, this building's been here a long time, but it's been overlooked for many, many years. So I think being in the old 6th Ward and the amount of historic homes that are in this neighborhood, it really is just the perfect fit. And for me as an architect, it's really important. I'm originally from El Paso, and you definitely get the sense of appreciation for history in a city like El Paso. But coming here, I feel like the city just experiences so much diversity and so much transient traffic flow that it's really easy for people to come to the city and want to make it their own, which ultimately results in this constant change.
Right.
And so I think that kind of adds to the lack of appreciation. But meeting John and having someone that is a Houstonian, born and raised, it's kind of like you start to sense that there are a lot of people that do appreciate it. And for me, that just kind of goes hand in hand as an architect to appreciate architecture.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, the store is beautiful, right? So and when you walk in, you definitely have the feel of kind of going back a little bit. It doesn't, I feel like I feel like you could have a line out the door, and it's not going to change the feel in here, right? It's still going to be like, if you waited an hour in line, it wouldn't feel like you waited an hour in line, because it just has this, I don't know.
It's a vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like as soon as we walked in,
very calming.
The smell hit you.
know?
Like, oh my God, it smells so good. And then the music, it's just, it's really cool.
Right on.
Really cool.
It is.
You like slow down a little bit, right? You know, everything outside us right now is just fast. I get it done as quickly as possible. But you walk in an environment like this, it's like, okay, I can relax a little bit. I can have a beer. I mean, I love the cooler. General store. Me and Jan grew up in a small town with about 300 people or whatever, and we had that general store to where you went, and that's where you got everything. I mean, from buying your drinks, your food, your groceries. Everything was there at that one particular store.
Probably maybe about the size of this building, to be honest with you. So walking in, it kind of takes you back, and for us to go to like a normal grocery store, it would have been probably a 45-minute drive, and so you just didn't do that, you know. And having, you know, it was called Mallory's where we grew up, and having that there, you know, as a kid, I never thought about like going to a Kroger's or anything. I'm like, no, we got a Mallory's, we got everything we need, you know.
Right.
But you know, we also had the, you know, farmers, you know, and ranchers there, so you always had fresh meat, fresh produce, and fresh eggs. So you grow up that way, and you don't really think, you think everybody does, and they don't, you know. So it's cool that y'all have this vibe that you're putting out in this. You're sunk in a neighborhood, right? And you have all these awesome houses around you, and that
was one of the first comments that when we were pulling up. Jan's like, "Hey man, this is smack dab into a neighborhood." I'm like, "Man, you guys are just supporting this neighborhood." He's like, "That is pretty awesome."
All of Houston, really, but
sure. And vice versa, man. We've seen the neighbors come out in full force and really get a lot more, I think, for their money, quite frankly, when you can attach a face to the jam that you're buying because you see in the family that did it.
Yep.
You know that money's going straight back to those people that live down the street from you or in your neighborhoods, in your city. And really, this is what I remember Houston being like. We would go visit cousins in different neighborhoods, and every cousin that I'd go visit had a store in it that had something going on in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was a fish joint that sold groceries. Sometimes it was a burger joint that sold groceries. And usually I always felt like those were the best versions of burger or fried fish and fries, right? Like that you were getting at this store. Maybe it was just the feeling of it. Maybe the food was, you know, okay, but something about the whole package makes it better, I think. And so we remember stores like this, and that's why this building, again, I don't think it can be anything else. The way it's built, the way it's designed, where it is, and what's been here for, you know, since it was built, I just don't think it can be anything else other than something that's serving the neighborhood or serving the local area for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, staying true, right? Staying true to what this is, what it means to people, you know, that they've grown up here, that have had, you've got grandparents and people that have been here their whole life, right? And then this place has been something to them, and you keeping that alive, you know, where they're able to take their kids to or their grandkids to and say, you know, I came here and it was this, you know, X amount of years ago. You know?
No, that's very true. I mean, we have families that come in here that will say, oh, I saw the name in an article and I knew exactly where it was. And I had to come here. Or then we have other folks that will bring in their children, whether it's like an older generation, and then say, when I was little, the store was, and they fill in the blank with what it was at the time. Which is also a really cool thing to say. Now, not all of them can remember the names. Which I think is kind of funny, but it's just interesting that they can remember who was behind the counter or how that person helped them, or what they ate. At one point, it was a meat market, so people remember coming here to buy fajitas. So it's just kind of funny.
That's fantastic. And even the original family, the Scardino name that I mentioned early on, they even had a small family reunion gathering here at the store. And, you know, filled us in on the stories about their uncle and that had owned the place originally and how they sold it to their cousins, you know, after they were done working it. So it's just kind of like to see it. It's really, really cool. There's something about it. I guess we're nerds like that, and it really means a lot to us for sure. And now we see new generations coming through. We do have a couple that came here early on in their relationship, maybe first couple dates. And then we saw them get engaged We saw them get married, and now they have a child. And so basically that whole story played out right here in our store.
That's awesome.
And just, man, there's just something really good about that stuff. And it's, you can't make it up, I guess. And so it just feels good to know that we can at least be here and be the stage for something like that.
Sure.
We even have little kids that come in and get gallons of milk that they can barely carry, but they feel so proud that they're taking it back home to mom down the street. Like something about it, something about it. It's a story, I think, is really great. And the food, that's what keeps people coming back, I think, is just the old style, simple style barbecue. Everything's made in-house. Sausage is made in-house. Everything's, it's fantastic. So we feel good about it. And customers seem to like it too.
There it is. Yeah. so barbecue, right? So I get the preserving. I get the building, but barbecue. So you're a culinary guy, right? You always wanted a restaurant or
no. So that there's some pictures here on the wall, and that's my grandfather, AC Signs, and he had a barbecue joint in Bryan, Texas, starting in the '60s. I was born in '73, and I spent ton of time in front of that brick pit with him, watching them do everything. Originally, before they had the large brick pits, they had a small ice house where they sold tamales and brisket. And the tamales were made with smoked brisket and serving beer. And I can remember standing on the old wooden soda pop crate so I could play pool on the pool table because I was too little to reach it. And that's that building in the middle that you see there.
Yeah.
But just that's where it comes from. I did have other jobs as I got older, and sometime after 2007, 2008, somewhere around there, I decided to go to Austin and live there and kind of got back into food. Mm-hmm. Started studying with are working for a really fantastic chef, Melissa Brinkman there in Austin, and really reminded me how much I liked the kitchen. I mean, washing dishes is important in culinary, right? So like, I kind of got that feeling back of working in the summers in my uncle's restaurant, working at my grandfather's restaurant, growing up in it, and it just really made me want to do it for myself. I think I was the happiest. I had gotten off of a shift. I was tired, I was exhausted, but I remember feeling like I was really good about what I was doing, and that was it. That was the start of it for me, going back into it again. So family's been in the restaurant business for a while, and it just felt like it came full circle. I was the first grandchild on that side of the family, and so my mother says my feet barely touched the ground because they carried me everywhere around that restaurant, around that store. And nice. I can remember my grandfather sweeping the floor and telling me about the restaurant business. I don't remember what it was and was probably way too young to comprehend, but just how important it was to him, I think, meant a lot. And so that's why I feel like we do it here every day. We painted this building white because the building in that picture is white. My guys wear red aprons because my grandfather wore a red apron in his restaurant. So little things like that maybe don't go out into the public necessarily. They just still mean something to us.
Sure.
For sure.
Everything has a meaning, right?
Yeah, it feels good, man.
John is an incredibly intentional person. So there's always a meaning or a thought behind almost everything that he does.
Yeah. No,
almost.
Almost. Right. So it's, I think, I don't know the exact, I love when people throw out, I don't know what you say, like facts where they like, well, 60% of this, and you're like, oh, is that true? But so I did read this, that 60% of restaurants fail after the first year, right? And so that's like, you got to get out of the first year, right? And then additionally, 80% of those that passed, that got through the first year, closing the first 4 years, right? So that's a big thing, right? A lot of restaurants go in, but it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You got to have the right location, right food, but even then it doesn't matter, right? But the story is what helps every restaurant, having that story. And I think you definitely guys have
the people behind the story as well.
That's right. That's right. And that's the thing that helps people relate and go, yes, I can see this.
It builds a community, really.
100%.
Right? They want to support. Yeah.
Yeah. And just from hearing about you guys, reading about you guys, and then obviously being here, I can see why. This has been, this is y'all's hearts, right? This is y'all put everything into this thing.
Yeah, definitely. So. And I mean, community is probably one of the most important things. It's funny because I always considered myself an introvert. But then I started working in our restaurants, and I realized how much I really enjoyed talking to one person at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
And working the counter does that for you. And I'm fortunate to have a really great memory. So it allows me to really get to know someone after one visit.
Right
and
on.
so then it became this thing where it was like I wanted to get to know someone, and then they would bring me someone else, and I'd get to know them. And then I just came to realize, like, we have such strong relationships with our customers because we've gotten to know them over time. And I mean, even when we first started in the food hall, it was just, we'd see the same group of guys, and I'd joke with them, well, you guys didn't line up in the same order you did the last time, so I need you to rearrange yourself so I remember everybody's name.
Yep, that's it.
But it is really great to kind of know someone on that level and just know that, I don't know, it creates this really comfortable relationship. And for me, when people come in the door, I want them to feel like they're at home. Mm-hmm. And so it makes me really happy to hear you guys say that you feel that like sense of relaxation, because I want that for everyone that comes through the door. And I feel like the first layer of that is smelling the food and walking in. But the other part of that is really the customer service part and getting to know people. And I always tell my staff, when you meet someone at the register, don't ask them what they want. Ask them how they're doing first.
Yeah.
Because that opens things up into conversation. It really kind of disarms someone and makes them feel like they can be comfortable here.
That's right.
And we're really not trying to rush anyone out the door.
Yeah. Take your time, right? Hey, listen, how's your day going? Hey, you know, whatever. Yeah.
I was shooting a little just kind of like B-roll footage inside the store, and I'm always kind of conscious of like if people in the shot. You know, I don't want to like get people in a camera because they don't want to be in a camera, because I've seen too many videos of people like, oh, don't video me, and they go crazy, whatever. So I'm just shooting, and I panned over, and there's a family sitting over in the corner, and I got almost to to them, and I cut the camera off. Well, the dad was just sitting there, just like throwing a peace sign up, and then the mom was like this, and the kid, and he's like, oh. What'd you do? And I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't know you were trying to get in there. I was like, let me do it again. So I did it again. Met them, super nice. They're talking about the podcast or whatever. And just like at home, you know, met Camille, and they're like, shit, I'm going to follow you guys or whatever. I'm like, I love this place here.
Yeah. It's interesting because some of our employees will come work for us and have been at other places, and one of the first things that they always seem to mention is the people here are so nice. The customers are so nice here. I'm not used to that. You know, they come from other places,
we get
and so
that a lot.
It's kind of like there's, I guess maybe it's unspoken that it's just not the place to be a jerk. You know, or kind of just let's all meet here and kind of have a good time. Something I learned from my grandfather is that we are, you know, when someone grabs the handle to your door, what they're doing is they're coming in and putting their trust in you, right? They're about to pay you. They're going to sit down. They're going to spend their hard-earned money. They're going to spend their time. If they bring their family or their friends or relatives, they're kind of depending on you to help them, you know, show them a good time. And that's a big responsibility, and we want to take that seriously. And I think that first comes with, and it serves both sides, but it comes with us making sure that people are welcome. If you're a nice person, you're a good person, you're always welcome here.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not a good person, if you can just suspend that when you walk in the door and be nice while you're here, hey, we're good with that too. But, you know, just that's key. And it's something that we can offer just by being who we are, I think, and asking our employees to be who they are. Just, you know, just be who you are.
When the positivity and the warmth really, like, it's contagious.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And customers are not nice because they came to see us. It's like there's something about that being reciprocated. So it's like they feel it, so they give it off, and then we give it off back, and then it just kind of spirals into something that continues on to other people coming to see us.
Sure.
And so, I mean, even when I train our employees, like, they just listen to me. The way that I talk to people, the things that I say, I talk to them the same way. I don't treat them any different than our customers. And so, you know, like, we're all human.
Oh yeah.
We treat each other good, and that's really, you know, it's when we don't have that I take issue with someone.
Sure.
Like, you don't even have to do the job right. I'll show you how to do that part. But if you just come with a positive attitude, the rest will kind of come at some point.
I think we get good feedback on that too. But also, I mean, barbecue's friendly food, I feel like, you know what I mean? it can be a competitive thing for sure, but you're kind of coming in here, and we all know that it's been slow smoked for a while. A lot of time has been put into it. We know it is what it is, and there's a lot of expectations for barbecue in Texas, but in Houston especially, I think there's so much competition now. So many places slinging good brisket. It's all about what else can you offer besides just that brisket, right? There's a lot more to it, and that's just a little something that we can offer for sure. We're very lucky to have some really great employees, and some employees that have been with us for almost 10 years at this point.
Nice. Well, that says a lot about you guys.
Right.
You know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it, right? How you treat your employees, that's how they're going to treat your customers.
That's right.
Yeah, right. We want to feel good about when we're home and we're not here. We want to feel good about that, and and it does help. I mean, the customers, the audience is really the reason we're here. I mean, we opened the year before COVID, so that happened. And while a lot of places were really struggling, we were fortunate enough to be able to hang on with the support of the customers. And I think it made us want to work harder. While people were going to grocery stores and not able to find things on the shelf, it had a sort of really negative, apocalyptic almost feeling when you walk into the store and you spend that time and you go and there's something that's not on the shelves that you need. And I think we worked really hard. Every morning we would wake up super early and start hitting all of our vendors. And even though it was a limited number of something you could get every day, we were there every day trying to get it. But
we'd go to some places and John would change his shirt to make it seem like he was someone
he's
else.
He's snitching.
You gotta do
because it was just such a fun time. Like,
we
it was wild.
I mean, we just had so many customers coming in. And I remember an older lady coming in, and she looked so stressed out that she couldn't find the things that she was looking for at the grocery store that she had always gone to. And to come into our store and be able to find it, granted, there were only 2 or 3 on the shelf because that's all I could get that day. But you start to see how it was affecting people and stressing out people, and especially older folks that hadn't had to deal with this kind of a thing before, and really were vulnerable. It just working harder felt better, right? It just felt good to be able to give them the things that they were coming in for, and it really carried us through. The food was always there, and I mean, during that time we had the freeze. The big freeze, right, which is another instance where we didn't know what to do.
That was wild, too.
But we knew that we had gas, so we could heat water. We knew we had food because we could cook it on the stovetop with our gas. I mean, we were cooking with flashlights and, that kind of stuff. But the opportunity to do that meant a lot, and the community just came through and really just supported us for all those years that could have easily been the end of Henderson and Kane.
Yeah, that was like 30 days we went without power here.
Yeah.
And it was, the good thing was that it was so cold that we didn't have to worry about the walk-in coming out of temperature.
Yeah, because it's on the exterior wall, right? So it was like frozen, basically. And then one day, on one of the coldest days, Veronica was giving away hot coffee and hot chocolate. And
well, that was another challenge because we could not brew coffee because we couldn't grind the beans, but we had a huge batch of cold brew. So we literally heated up cold brew to serve hot coffee.
Yeah, and some of these folks, these old houses are fantastic, except for in the dead of winter and the dead of summer, right?
Not built for that.
Yeah, insulation isn't that. So we had folks coming in and just wanting to be inside because it was warmer, because the stoves were going, and the gas stove was a big old burner at that time, big 12 burner or something, and we keep it real hot in here. But it was those opportunities to get back to it. Those opportunities to really serve. Was really what helped keep us together, and we thrived in a lot of ways. I guess hanging on really is thriving during that time. But we were hanging on, and it was good, and we formed a lot of relationships with a lot of people, and it was a side of the industry that you really got to focus on and highlight, because it was before that it was 100% about food. We were kind people, we were good people, we expected the same from customers, and they were great. But the food was what it was about for that time, starting out, and then to really get an experience, and the rest of it reminded us of how important that was. And it's 50% of it, right? Like, you can have great food all you want, but if people aren't happy, then
they can't relate.
They're not going to come.
Yeah, what do they care? And that's what barbecue is, man. Barbecue is
it's happy food.
I mean, in Texas especially, how many little towns are there where people gather around a central barbecue pit and feed a whole town? Like, that was a huge thing in Texas, right? We took a tour. We went on a road trip where we were hunting down old brick pits and finding them and taking photos of them kind of documenting where they are, because they're kind of dying out at this point, with all the the new makers that are making with plate steel or pipe, and you can go to these old places where there's churches, community center, VFW halls. They have these brick pits, and it's again a reminder like whole little towns used to come together on a day of the year and would cook enough pulled pork for the whole city, basically. We kind of hope to get back to that here in Houston.
That would be fantastic. We've done a lot of stories and a lot of podcasts over the years, just talking about the history of barbecue and what it did for everybody, what it meant for everybody, and just as you're saying, like just whole cities just got together on a Sunday or whatever, and just had the best time in their life. And the whole creation of this podcast that we're here now started because we were sitting around basically a barbecue pit. We were grilling and hanging out and talking and telling stories, and I was like, we should just record this, and then that started this whole thing. But it goes back to we did competition barbecue, and then you go into these competition barbecues, and it is like everybody's trying to win, but they're all so nice, and they help you out. We've seen instances in our own experience, like, hey, we don't have enough charcoal. We don't have enough wood. Can we borrow some wood from the team next to you? And you take wood from them. They're like, yeah, hey, no problem. Here you go. What else you need? And then, but it's like there was no question asked. Honestly, it's like, here you go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the community of barbecue.
Right.
You know, it can be it can be very in your face competition where but at the same time, I mean, 90% of them are all cooking the same way. They're all cooking this low and slow 12-hour cook. You know, it's gotten a little bit more competitive now with the drum smokers and whatever else. But I do I'm a big fan of the brick. The brick pits, and so obviously you're chewing down wood, right? Charcoal, and you're going in and spreading. Is that how that would?
No, so the brick pit would be more in line like so what you'd have the brick pit, and then you'd have on one of the longer one of the ends of the pit, you would basically have a small box. Sometimes you don't even have a box. Sometimes you just have a square cut out, and you put the fire right on the floor. And as long as you have an exhaust on the other end of it, it's going to draw that smoke and that fire, that heat through. Smitty's in Lockhart is a perfect example of that. And again, one of the most primitive places. I know it's had another name, the family name, starting early 1900s, but it is still the family that has the building and uses those brick pits the way that they did when I was growing up. I mean, my grandfather on my dad's side used to take us out there when we were little kids, and Smitty's was where we went because he lived in Maxwell and would take a horse and a buggy with his uncle there to go get meat.
So cool.
And then go back because it was before they were selling barbecue, they were just a meat. They were processing basically. So when you go into that place, you'll see the old wooden walk-in coolers. You'll see the track with the hooks from the outside wall all the way into the cooler, trace it back. And so I didn't know anything about it then, of course, but from both ends, barbecue was super important in our family for sure. And those brick pits are just, I don't know, man. They're just dying. It's sometimes you see them crumbling. My grandfather's building is no longer there, but the bricks are in a pile that my uncle saved, restored, or brought them back. And the sun and the rain have just kind of restored them to look brand new over all these years. Who knows if anything will ever happen with them again, but they're still there.
Yeah.
And there's even here in our little neighborhood, right on this street here, about 4 houses down, on the right-hand side, there's a little brick pit in the backyard. And it looks like a little cathedral almost, and that's how I remember a lot of them being. It's not a smoking pit, it doesn't look like, but it's a grill. And it seems like I remember them more commonly them being more common when I was younger, and that's pretty fantastic. Now, in the city of Houston, unfortunately, we can't have them in our buildings or in our restaurants. I would guess there's probably very few cities where it's allowed these days.
Yeah, if you want to get technical, it has to do with the fire bricks themselves not having any kind of structural integrity, and so when they do reach a certain temp, they actually can start to break down.
Yeah.
And so the city doesn't like to use them for that reason. That's just one of the many reasons, but.
There's a place called D'Hanis, Texas, and we kept hearing these old timers tell us, "Oh yeah, there's a D'Hanis brick pit or D'Hanis pit out there, D'Hanis pit." I couldn't figure out what it was, and then one of the old guys explained to me that D'Hanis is the town where they make that fire brick, and each brick is stamped with D'Hanis on it. So if you ever see a D'Hanis brick, that more than likely is a fire brick that can take it. But brick pits, man, and love to see people's pictures of them. Because we know that you can only find them if you know where they are, right? Like, I guess a good chance is go to an old VFW or go to an old park or something where they might have one. Some old churches have them as well, but they aren't everywhere. And I love seeing them. I love seeing pictures of them, and people send us pictures. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So what kind of pit are you running back there?
So we have a J&J, a little pit. Is that right? Was it oh no, I'm sorry. I have a Klaus. I have a small little Klaus that we're running off of, and it's not a big pit. It's only about 600 gallons, and it's a nice pit. I feel good about it.
Yeah,
it's got 2 stacks on it, and we only use oak and pecan, and so it's a pretty steady machine, and we do it every day.
Every day. Nice. So if you had to say, like, are y'all obviously Brisket's king in Texas, but I mean, you're always doing something different, right? So
Sure.
you want to? Are y'all? You're not just obviously brisket ribs and whatever else, but are y'all incorporating other meals, other foods? Are y'all doing?
So when we get the opportunity to do like this winter, we're doing what's called our smoke sessions. Our smoke sessions is our dinner series, and any chance I get to to do something outside of the standard brisket or the Trinity, I will. And so we did smoked turkey breasts. We did smoked roasted acorn squash. Really standard fall meal, and it was really nice. And that's a good opportunity to do that. Now, I think the culture, I guess the new wave or the new wave of the barbecue is to kind of put your culture on top of it, because barbecue is so primitive, right? Like smoke, fire, meat.
Right.
Like it's human. It's human. So it's so primitive. And we started when we first started, and when my grandparents had it, they were doing tamales with smoked brisket, which I never knew, right? Like I didn't know like how amazing that was, I guess, or how different it might later become. It was just normal, and so it's hard to find tamales that are as good as my grandmother's. No matter how hard I try. No matter how hard I try.
He even says that about our own.
Yeah. So it's like they're not, not quite there yet, just trying to figure it out. But and I think that's the new wave of things. So we do now have Vietnamese spin on barbecue. In Brooklyn, there's a kosher barbecue guy. I know there's a halal barbecue now. And so it's a good opportunity for people in Houston, or I guess anywhere, to really try a new spin on, again, fire, meat, smoke, right? Yeah. And so if you think about it, every culture, everybody has that.
All of them.
Has that, right? And so, and oftentimes it's the best version of whatever it is that they're doing. If it's cooked over fire or coal or whatever, it's just fantastic. And so you'll find us dipping into our Hispanic culture or Mexican culture by doing things like our smoked brisket tacos. We just are starting to do smoked brisket enchiladas. Smoked brisket flautas.
So hungry now?
Yep. Just buy a house down here.
And who knew how simple it was? But queso with brisket on top is pretty amazing, right? You just can't beat it. And so we do that. Like that's kind of using. We're making our own corn tortillas in house, and we're using smoked tallow, brisket tallow, to replace the butter. A little bit of smoked salt maybe as well, so it's got a different element, some more depth to it than normal, I think.
Yeah.
So that's what you see us doing here, and that's kind of the direction we normally go in. Because it's home to us for sure.
Smoking meats isn't just cooking; it's an art form. The aroma, those deep flavors, the patience, it's a whole experience.
And behind every great artist, there's the right set of tools. If you're aiming to build your own barbecue pit, or dreaming of a custom design tailored just for you, SmokerBuilder.com has your back.
Led by Frank Cox, their expertise is unmatched. Offering blueprints, kits, and insights, they turn every barbecue dream into a flavorful reality.
Imagine your backyard, the center of attention, and at the heart of it, a smoker that's uniquely yours.
It's more than just equipment. It's about crafting those unforgettable moments, and with the guidance of Frank and his team, you're setting the stage for magic.
So whether you're a seasoned pitmaster or taking your first steps into the smoky world,
head over to SmokerBuilder.com, fill up your carts, and be sure to use the promo code GRABTHEBRISKET in all caps to receive your 10% discount. Smoke on.
Hey, you there. We've got a question for you. Are you tired of clickbait stories and the loudest voices driving discussions in culture and entertainment?
If so, I'm Dylan.
I'm Kendall.
And I'm Corey. And we host the podcast From the Middle. We're middle-class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives with points of view somewhere in the middle.
We take a more reasonable and centrist approach in our discussions covering genres like comedy, culture, entertainment, and interviews, with really interesting folks like business owners, comic creators, doctors, news anchors, New York Times best-selling illustrators, professional stand-up comics, and more. We really value a relaxed and conversational podcast, one that we hope is so fun and laid back, you'll forget you're not actually hanging out with us.
So search at From the Mid Pod, just like it sounds, or check us out everywhere you can find podcasts.
That's the thing about having having anything, right? That's yours. You're free to do whatever you want, right? And you're free to make it your own. And I think I don't know. I think I love cooking, right? I love not just smoking. I love in the kitchen cooking. I'm built that way. Grew up. My grandmother had a gas station and a little restaurant, right? And that's
cool.
So we worked
Burger
in
joint,
it, right?
yeah.
Oh wow.
So I'm standing on milk crates, and I'm flipping burgers in the back at 5 years old. You know, that was normal, right?
Yeah.
Like using a butcher knife and like cutting up vegetables was normal for me at a very young age. And I don't think my grandmother she didn't drive, right? We walked everywhere, so we walked home, and that's. A house was probably about a block and a half, 2 blocks away, and every morning at 5 in the morning I was up. James and I are twins, and we were up, and we were walking to. It was called the Strong Center, and we walked in, and we opened everything up, and there's a process to open anything up, right? Because you have to be there because ranchers and everybody get up early, and they need to come in and have breakfast, and they want to have fresh coffee.
Turn the lights on, turn the pumps on to the gas.
Wow.
Yeah, everything.
And then we did all of that, and then we rode our bikes to school. Like maybe about a couple miles away. And that was normal. Every morning up, and we always had a job to do. And that was I don't know. I feel like it's what you got here.
Yeah. We always get when we go back to Strawn, and we run into the people that like. Strawn Center's like I've never had a burger quite like your grandmother.
People still talk about it.
They still talk about it. It's like they have not. She set the bar here, and maybe it was like you were mentioning. Maybe it's that nostalgia a little bit. Maybe it's that you being there.
It was a good burger, but it wasn't ever what it is now. Because now people talk about it. Like it's always this great burger that you can never obtain.
Right.
But one thing I feel like food really reciprocates what you put into it and the way you cook it and the time you take to make it, and I think that it unfolds that way and you taste it. It's weird. I could give you a recipe and we could execute it the same way. One will come out different than the other one, and I think it's what you put into it from yourself, and people. There's certain things that everybody makes at home, and you're like, this is so freaking good, right? And you go somewhere else, and they're like, yo, I made your recipe, and you try it, and you're like, well, that ain't my recipe. I don't know what you forgot the love.
Something happened. Yeah, Jan has a fantastic Bloody Mary recipe that he makes. Yeah. He's won like 5 or 6 like competitions with his thing, and he tells me what it is. Like everything, you do this, and that, and that. I have all the ingredients, and my wife loves the Bloody Mary, and I'll go other places. Hey James, make me a Bloody Mary. I'm like, great, I need all this stuff right here, and I put it together, and it's not the same. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm using the same ingredients, but obviously he has just that little passion, that little panache to get all that stuff
shake
put together.
Of sauce or something,
one
right?
extra little dab of this,
whatever it is, or holding back a little. Who knows?
Well, for us, that would be John's mom's Texas chocolate sheet cake.
Yeah.
And she will hand anyone that asks that recipe, but it doesn't matter because it will never taste as good as hers.
Come on.
And so she actually makes us a sheet cake for the shop that we sell, which is only hers. And she once promised that she would teach Maddie, my stepdaughter, how to make it. She's like, I will roll through the whole recipe beginning to end, and I will teach her how to make it, and no one else. And I'm like, you're holding out on an ingredient. Like something's going on here. Something is missing.
I was watching my mom. Was like, I think she was making chicken fried steak, and then she was making the gravy. So obviously use the drippings from the chicken fried steak, and she's like, okay, we're gonna make the gravy for it. I'm like, I'm just like eyeballing. I'm like, okay. I'm watching everything she's putting in there. She's like, you do this, and that. And then she got the flour and all that stuff into the making kind of the roux, beginning of the roux. She's like stirring the flour, it's cooking it, browning it. And she's like, I was like, okay, so when do you pour the milk in? She's like, well, when you smell the smell. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that means.
What smell?
Is there? I'm more like, what's the time?
Right,
right. And she's like, it not burning, but you smell it cooking and this. And it's like, okay, that's probably about time. I'm like, can we just go off color or whatever? She's like, okay, now add the milk, and she adds some milk into it. She's like, okay, but you don't want to add all milk, so just And I'm like, I make gravy at home, and it's not the same.
That's working it, man. That's just That's just how you work it.
Just
It's amazing. It's amazing. I wonder how many people that listen to this probably have a family situation like that as well, right? Like a recipe in the family that just can't get it or just don't remember it the right way. Or, it's always important to document that stuff when you can, man.
And if you got the loved ones, if you got them there with you right now, please go to them right now and just sit there and soak up and learn as much as you can.
It, right?
Yeah. Especially Thanksgiving's right around the corner here.
Yeah.
And grandparents, grandmother, everybody, the food that they produce is unmatched, and we're still trying to recreate it.
Yeah. That's important, especially here in Texas, man. There's a lot of good food. There's so many cultures here in Texas, right? Like, and we were talking about this recently, how barbecue is exactly that, right? Like, barbecue is very German, it's very Mexican. So when you look in the hill country and you see
the vaqueros, man.
When you look in the hill country and you see a Mexican named town next to a German named town, next to a Mexican named town, next to a German, right? Like, that's barbecue. That's Texas cuisine right there. That's Central Texas barbecue. And so, man, all of that different culture and everybody having their own recipe books or their own recipes, whatever it might be, and that's crazy important.
We started very early on trying to, you do some of the research and talking about where the origins of barbecue came from. Where did it start? And a lot of people kind of like theorize like this culture started it versus this culture or whatever. I'm not really sure what the correct answer is.
I already know what it is. Hey,
what?
God made fire.
Right. That's right.
And we started cooking food on top of it. That's grilling 101. I mean, but yeah, I mean, we went back and we went back to, the vaqueros. And I'm not saying it correctly, right? But
it's still cute.
Yeah, right.
Your R's are wrong.
I got to roll my R.
You're supposed to roll something.
Vaqueros. I guess I could do this, right? But yeah, I mean, like, but everything lends the German influence, definitely, right? I mean, but I think that's what makes it so special. And then you have these restaurants that take, and I think they pull from their family. Everybody's pulling from their own family, everybody has that cook. Everybody has that uncle or the aunt or the grandmother or the mom, whatever. So, I don't know. I think that's just what makes it so special. But one thing I want to say is we're talking about recipes and whatever. There was this, we saw this, that there was this recipe of like these, I don't know if it was cookies or something, right? It was like the world renowned best cookies you could get, right? And everybody talked about these cookies, and this whole family, and nobody would.
It was a secret recipe that Grandma had of these cookies the best cookies in the world.
And she wouldn't tell anybody.
She wouldn't tell anybody. She would pass it down, but you had to like not tell anybody. So it's like grandmother would pass it down to mother would pass it down to daughter. And
very secretive.
Very secretive. And it gets to the point where she gets, I guess the daughter gets the recipe finally.
Well, it's like a grandkid, right?
Grandkid.
It's grandkid from the grandmother. She's got the recipe now.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's the recipe off of the Nestle Toll House bag of chocolate chips.
100%.
Well, I guess you'll never forget.
Right? So, because she's like, I got this recipe, and here it is. And then she turns the bag over, and she's like, Jesus. Okay, there it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you know. So
I mean, surely somebody just gave it up.
Right.
But that's probably the testimony to the fact that it's that connection that somehow makes it the best cookie in the world, right? Like even if they've had it, even if they had that recipe somewhere else, is the fact that it was grandma's. Right?
Yeah. So what I think is grandma never gave the recipe out. I think grandma took the Nestle recipe and she gave it out to. She says, you can use this one, right? But she's like, ain't nobody eating these cookies, right? Yeah. That's what I want to think that way. Maybe not. Whatever. I don't know. I think it's just funnier. I don't.
Yeah. My mom swears that the secret in the cake that she makes, the sheet cake that she makes, is the fact that it calls for buttermilk, but she doesn't buy the buttermilk. She makes her own.
Yeah.
Well, we've tried that, and still, Mom, it doesn't work the same.
Sorry, Mom.
So she, I feel like she's throwing us curveballs, and I'm sure my daughter will get the recipe, which is great because I can live out my years still eating it.
Yeah.
But it's just funny because we give her a hard time about it, and it's one of the few things that we enjoy poking fun at Mom about, and she laughs and has a good time with it too. So
nice.
It's really great. But she comes here and makes us cake probably once a week. Twice a week.
A couple times a week,
A couple times a week she'll come here and make us
People
the cake.
love it.
And it flies off the shelf. I don't have any on the shelf right now, actually.
Actually, we just cut one up.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Nice.
So they go pretty good. But it's, again, one of those things that's that family vibe. And Texas it's so important for people to save their recipes and pass them on if they can. Try to have a family cookbook. It's as important as a family Bible to some people, I'm sure, right? To pass that on.
Yeah.
Especially if you can save that cookbook or even copy the cookbook in grandma's script with her handwriting or whatever notes that they put into it. Imagine that 2 or 3 generations from now, 5 generations from now, 6 generations from now.
We actually, my wife got a cutting board. And on the cutting board is her grandmother's recipe, but it's in her grandmother's handwriting.
Oh, wow.
That was cut onto there. And it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, how special is that?
Yeah, so it sits up in the thing, and it's like, and it's like a sauce, right? And every once in a while, Amy's like, I'm making the sauce.
Yeah.
And it just sits out all day long.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And we're full of them. People are full of them. Families are full of them. I'm beating a dead horse probably, but it's just so important to document that stuff and keep it in the family for sure.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
I've got just, if there was one thing, obviously, 2 things. One, you said something earlier, you said disarming, and you said it's to disarm somebody. It's like, don't just ask them what they want, right? Hey, how are you? How's your day going? Whatever. I'm a big proponent of that. I walk around to every person that I work with in the office. When I come in, I go touch everybody, right? And I'm like, hey, what was the best thing? I'm always asking weird questions to, like, hey, what's the best part of your day today? Right? To people that don't even know me, hey, what's the best thing happening to you today? And I always get that first look like, well, actually, this happened or whatever, It could be a waiter. It could be anything. It doesn't matter. But disarming is walking through the front door, because the vibe y'all have created is very disarming. It's amazing, to be honest with you. And the second you open the door, you're like, well, I don't care what kind of day I had. I'm having a pretty good damn day right now.
The ambiance, the aesthetics, the vibes. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
So
I know you mentioned earlier we had like off the mic conversations, whatever. But this room that we're sitting in right here, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So again, this place started in 1937 as a general store. I think more fruits, vegetables, sundries, that kind of thing. Obviously, you can imagine the 30s and the 40s. Later on, I believe in the 70s, if I'm not mistaken, it was sold to the Garcia family, and they had a place called Garcia's Meat Market. And the building, when I first was able to get into the building and look at it, the walk-in freezer was still here. So we are sitting in what used to be the walk-in freezer, where the hooks, the butcher's station was in the corner. It still had the hooks in the ceiling where they were hanging half cows, and they were basically butchering them here in the freezer, of course, to keep it super fresh and ready to be sold. Wow. But it was great, and it was actually from that door there to here. So what is that? 20 feet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
20 feet by, I don't know what that width is, but
yeah. And I think originally the building actually stopped at that column row. So in the 30s, this was their residence. And so at some point, the building was expanded before the meat market came in.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so the neighborhood really had gone through a lot of change, of course. Fortunately, the neighborhood is now historically protected. But a lot of the homes were protected, maybe sometimes unintentionally. We have some friends a block over who are restoring the home to its original form. And it's beautiful. They were fortunate, though, that as they were peeling back the layers, it's funny because he tells us, like, we peeled back the layer from the 80s, and then we peeled back the layer from the 50s, and then they got to the layer that was original to the house with the old shiplap and the old the brick where the fire stove used to be and all of that, like the hearth, is that what it's called? So like it's so original, and the neighborhood is special for that reason, and they were able to just kind of peel back and find that.
I think they said it was actually 3 houses that had been brought together.
Right.
And so they started to find like the original seams of when the houses first were connected.
Dude, that is so freaking cool.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It speaks to the neighborhood for sure, and it speaks to the different vibe. And the people that live here in the 6th Ward are often heavily invested in, of course, where their homes are and, you know, the home that they're going to live in, but they're heavily invested into the symbiosis here between all the neighbors and the houses all being the same. And even though, like I said, it's you know, Washington Avenue does get a little busy. Memorial is right behind us. It sometimes gets a little busy. Downtown gets a little busy, but this pocket is so slow.
Yeah.
And peaceful. A lot of people walking, biking, kids walking around, you know, just really good place to be. Really good place to be. Yeah.
Very cool.
And so outside, just switch the gears a little bit. Outside of, I know this is life for you guys. What are some of the other passions that you guys have in your life? What do we do outside of work?
Is that a trick question?
This is it. What are you talking about? They live here.
I know they do.
They got a bunk bed in the back.
I mean, the trouble is that we leave here and all we do is talk about work in a different kind of way. Yeah. John and I love to go to estate sales. So a lot of the vintage finds that you see in the shop are things that we've picked up from different estate sales. So that's probably one of the things that we enjoy doing on a regular basis. But outside of that, I mean, it's like we'll go somewhere, we'll go on vacation or something, take a small little road trip, and it ultimately somehow becomes tied into
barbecue.
Barbecue.
There it is.
Like when we went to go look at those brick pits, we considered that a little getaway, and we were still, you know, we were still hunting barbecue pits, and we knew we were going to stop at Smitty's. Right? We often find ourselves wherever we're going, we head west because we know the hill country is west. We know El Paso's west. We know the valley is southwest. Right? Like that's kind of the way it goes for us. And barbecue pits and smoked meats from wherever we can find it. Try it out. Try out what people are doing. That's our vacation.
What's your favorite thing that you currently have on the menu? What's like that you ever had? Like what is your favorite dish?
Sure. I mean, I'm super happy with the ribs right now. I'm super happy with the ribs right now. I'm very happy with our smoked brisket enchiladas that we're producing right now as well. We have a magnificent lady that is executing those for us in the back there, and she cares so much about them. Like it's life. You can feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel it for sure. Yeah, you can feel it for sure. She's so passionate about all this stuff, though. She's really great.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with all of those things. Another thing that I'm super happy with, maybe it's not food related, but something I'm super happy with is that my daughter graduated from University of Texas and decided that after working corporate for a couple of years that she wanted to come help grow the business and really help us, you know, get organized, and she did that absolutely. we've seen a lot of great improvements with her here, and the fact that I get to see her every day is super important. And it's a family business. My grandfather, Ambrose Sines, he would say, I remember him saying that he felt like a very lucky man because he would, speaking to what you were saying earlier, that he would come into the store, turn the lights on, and he knew that day, as soon as he turned the lights on, his family was going to be around him and his friends were going to come and visit him, right? Have some beers, eat some food, things like that. And when he said that, when you're younger, kind of in passing, it's okay, but as you get a little older, nostalgia, you see it, things mean something, and I'll never forget that. I feel like a lucky man because when I turn these lights on, my family is around me and my friends are coming to visit me. And that sums it up, I think, for us here, for sure. Yeah. So as much as we sometimes complain about, not having enough time to do the things that outside of this place, Veronica and I are very much into this little restaurant and everything about it. And it's not perfect and it's not fancy, but it's truly authentic, I feel like. And nothing makes us happier than when we have customers that enjoy themselves, that feel good about what we're doing. And a big compliment to that is that they bring someone else.
That's it. They come back.
Right. They come back and they bring other people with them because nobody wants to take someone to a place that they weren't happy with, right? And I think this place is somewhat of a hidden gem so that when people come in, they feel like they're showing a secret to someone. And it feels good to clue them in. And Veronica and Maddie run the show here. They are the brains of the operation, as I like to say. And so the reason people know about us is because of the work that they do on social media. There's not a lot of money spent on marketing and general advertising. It's just not something that we've spent a lot of money on. But the word of mouth is what keeps us busy, is what has customers here. It just feels good. That's the biggest compliment that we can get, is that someone comes back.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people are just so invested in us, and when they ask you, like, how is business?
Yeah.
Right.
And we get that question a lot. And most of the time, why? Does it seem like we're hurting? Like, everything's great. But that's what they want to hear, is that everything is great. Yeah. And then that usually lends what else can I do? Or what else can I buy? Or I brought so-and-so here the other day. Or I fed my whole crew working on my house. And so it's really kind of interesting the way that they feel like they're contributing to our success.
Right.
Sure.
Right, and they are. Yeah.
What's the best thing that you have on the menu? Come on.
I mean, my favorite, which is a bummer you can only get on the weekends during brunch, but the Boudin Benedict.
Ooh.
We do the loose boudin, like kind of fried on the flat top, and then it gets nice little poached egg, the hollandaise, just like something about like the acidity with like the creaminess of the egg. It's just so delicious. I didn't miss my opportunity this morning, so I'm kind of regretting it.
And then instead of on an English muffin, we do it on a piece of bolillo, so the little white bread. I guess pan francés, or the little French bread. So we take that and we put that at the bottom, so it's really nice. And once the hollandaise hits the boudin, it kind of sinks in between the grains of rice and the pork and stuff. So it's really, really good.
Yeah.
That's a really good dish.
Yeah,
good job. That's a really good one.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's one of my
That's a really
favorites.
good one.
Yeah.
She killed your answer, man.
I know, man. I know. Listen, I'm embarrassed by what my favorite thing
I eat
here.
a lot of ribs, though, so like,
I'm just
don't.
kidding. Enchiladas sound amazing.
I am a little embarrassed by what my favorite thing to eat here is, because I eat it just about every time in passing, which is a little boat, and I'll put some brisket in it with potato salad in it, and then cover the potato salad in barbecue sauce. And it's kind of weird, but it's super
It's
good.
weird.
I
can't get
Everybody
into
here
it.
says it's weird. But it feels like, what is it, the chef's split is what we called it. And so we would take a Texas split.
Yeah.
And we would take a sausage of your choice, and we would butterfly it like a banana. And then we put a scoop of potato salad like ice cream on it.
Yeah.
And then we put chopped beef on top of that like chocolate sprinkles. And then we put sauce on it like chocolate sauce.
Yeah.
And
Sounds amazing.
dang, it's weird,
It
but
hits.
it's so good.
It hits.
It's so good.
I'm into it.
It's so good.
No, that's awesome. That is so cool.
Well, that's great. Well, John, Veronica, we absolutely appreciate y'all having us out here. This has been amazing. If the folks want to come find the place or find your social media, all the places, can you share that?
Sure. So we're located at the corner of Henderson and Kane, just like the name. That's 715 Henderson Street in the Old 6th Ward. And as far as social media, it's the same handle for really pretty much everything, which is at Henderson and Kane.
At Henderson Kane.
Perfect. Yep, and we'll put a link down below for the listeners to find it.
That's
Thanks.
it.
So, are you guys ready to eat?
I'm ready to eat
Yeah,
something.
definitely. Yeah.
As soon as I walk in and
Because we
smelled
haven't
it.
eaten,
I
so.
know.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's go.
Thanks a lot, guys. We really appreciate
We appreciate y'all. Absolutely.
Thank you for having
Thank you
us.
so much.
Thank you.
Dang it, Bobby. Just grab the brisket. We'd like to give a special thanks to Sucklebusters Barbecue Rubs and Sauces, Bonner's Fiesta Spices, CoolieNation Custom Koozies, Cambro Manufacturing, YETI Coolers, the Smoke Sheep Barbecue Newsletter, and Dalstrong Knives. We definitely appreciate your support.